my goodie basket. But I want to ask you. I'll answer first, and then I'll give you time to think while I'm answering. So, what gives you hope for the future? It's something I'm trying to ask in every podcast.
Yeah.
And I've challenged myself, as you might know, to come up with a different answer in every time I do a podcast, because I'm a positive. Glass is full guy.
That's what I like watching.
So, and I gotta say, and a big part thanks to you, but podcasts in general give me hope for the future. To me, like making these, you started me on this path, and like I've already built relationships at a different level, like David, who we just mentioned. Like,
yeah,
him and I have known each other for years. We see each other in passing. Great guy, but I feel like I get to know him at a different level. I get to build that relationship. I'm reaching out to people I never would have conversations with. So on a small level, like, that's making me better. It gives me hope in myself. But then I think there's there's so much. These long form conversations are popular with Joe Rogan, and there's a popularity out there. I think there's this. I feel like the podcasts I listen to or I'm drawn to, and that are popular, are making people, challenging people's ideas, giving different perspectives, I feel like they make me a more educated citizen in general.
Yeah.
They challenge my ideas constantly. Like, I've never thought about aliens before. I've never thought about, you name it. And I feel like it's making me a better, more knowledgeable person. And if there's obviously a popularity in these things, so I feel like there's this, across the board, this is happening, on some level.
Yeah.
Which I think bodes well for our society. You look at all these, social media and where it takes us. It's like, that's a scary past. And you look at, there's so many things, so many negative things you can look at, but it's like the bell curve we talked about last night.
Yeah.
I feel like there's this want for just real conversations.
Yeah.
And just ideas, and expressing ideas and debating ideas and thinking about things. And then I've found I enjoy talking to people, which is kind of not the way I ever thought of myself.
Right.
And people are willing to it blows me away when strangers, basically, are willing to come on and take a risk and sit down with me and talk to me. But there's this want for human connection.
Right.
And that, I feel like podcasts are a way that we're kind of coming back together in a way. So it gives me hope for the future.
Yep.
So what gives you hope for the
future? Can you use the
future?
bathroom real quick?
That gives you hope for the future?
I'm not going to make it.
I got to say, one thing I'm really proud of myself right now, building in redundancies. So my GoPro has a mic and does actually a reasonably good job of the mic.
Yeah.
I clicked the setting on this after I hit record, which gave me an error message there, and it didn't record. Like, I only got 16 minutes of audio on that.
Oh, okay.
But the GoPro captures.
You have that.
Like, I have that backup.
Nice.
So I'll just use that sound.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So what gives you hope for the future?
So I don't have hope for the future. In the context of I think the way that you framed it up, for kind of humanity and stuff. So
there's got to be something.
So I mean, I'd be remiss in not mentioning. My hope comes from my faith, my faith in Christ,
right.
And that has always anchored me. Whether I've been a willing participant or not. But if we're being honest, it doesn't end well for humanity. There is an opportunity for hope and for faith, but there's a lot of indications that things get worse before they get better, and I see that. I don't want to be. I remember our grandfather was kind of a doomsday kind of guy. Even in the 90s, he just saw the writing on the wall and thought, the second coming's coming, and the end times are near, and we don't know. That could be 1,000 years from now. But there's enough indications out there where I can kind of see it, and maybe it's just the demise of America, and there's a new empire that comes and takes over for the next 1,000 years. But I see too much division. I contributed to a lot of that division by being too stubborn, in my opinion, for a long time. And now being on the other side of that, where I'm more willing to accept other people for who they are and be compassionate, because everybody goes through their own struggles. But I'm fortunate to have come to that place, but I know a lot of people aren't ever going to come to that understanding. They're going to trench in and kind of die on the hill.
Right.
So at the macro level, I think it's pretty bleak. On the individual level, I probably have never had more hope in my life than I've ever had before, ever, because I'm, like I said, a willing participant in self-exploration and self-growth. So I know that my better years are in front of me, and that's because I've made a decision for consistency and a pursuit of optimal living that just compounds and makes life more beautiful and more peaceful and more joyful. And I'm thankful to have come to that place now, and I'm excited. I was just driving up here and got goosebumps thinking about kids going off to college and getting into relationships and being able to watch all of that, and how what we're doing right here is going to just put me in an even more joyful position in the future to sit there and know that I gave everything that I could to my kids and to my career. This happens sometimes.
It's awesome.
So yeah, I have a lot of hope, personally. But it's been, through a lot of failures and tragedy, that's got me to a point where I can kind of stop feeling bad for myself and realize that it takes sacrifice and hard work to get yourself to a position where you can actually be at peace and enjoy the important things of life, like family and friends and relationships and hard work. So, very, I'm very optimistic about that. And I I've kind of come to a point where I like being the yin to your yang. I think we work well that way, where you're, Mr. Optimism and I'm the opposite. So I'm maybe playing into that a little bit, but I do think I come from this place, and that's why, again, I gravitate to guys like David Goggins and Jordan Peterson, because they acknowledge that the world is malice and chaos.
Right.
Some people just choose to ignore that or avoid it or say, no, everything's, rainbows and butterflies. I like to acknowledge the fact that this world is just one trap after the other. That's why you need to raise yourself up to to be in a place of virtue where you can actually have an impact on somebody else. Right. If you're just unnecessarily suffering and cradling under the pressure of life, you're no good to anybody. And so I feel like for the first time, I've renewed a sense of purpose by getting myself to a place where I feel like I'm strong enough to actually be impactful on other people.
Right.
And I know that those people will be brought into my life, whether it's just my kids or it's just you, or it's a bigger, broader audience, or just the random person I meet on the sidewalk that, that I have a meaningful impact with. So those are things that give me hope.
It's definitely a roundabout answer.